I wrote the letter to Comey indicting Hillary Clinton for treason, pedophilia, charity fraud, and electoral fraud. She stole 13 elections from Bernie Sanders. Everybody knew it, including Bernie Sanders, and he went along with that. And by the grace of God, we were able to prevent her stealing the same 13 states from Donald Trump. So let me really emphasize that the president has succeeded beyond all expectations for anyone with a brain, because he's the first president since John F. Kennedy who has not had the full support of the deep state.
Of course, his YouTube channel as well. And we have so much to talk about today, so let's begin. Robert David Steele, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
Hey, do you want to give people a little bit about your background, or should we just dive in? I think my audience is well-versed in who you are, former CIA.
Let me give them the two-sentence version. Grew up overseas as the son of an oil engineer. Went through 4 years in Vietnam as a child, 10 coups, 10 burning monks. Did university in the United States, joined the Marine Corps, and then joined the CIA, and was recommended for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2017.
Now, for people who say once CIA, always CIA, how do you respond to that?
They can't fucking read. I've written 8 books, 2 with forwards by senators, all of them very critical of CIA.
Yes, you have. All right. Well, let's begin. I want to ask you something. As you know, I sent you a link to a new Showtime show, which absolutely knocked my socks off when I discovered this last night. It's titled Enemies, the President, Justice, and the FBI. Right. All right. Well, we're going to dig into this, folks, because I believe that there's a psychological operation to demoralize those of us who are fighting for the soul of the nation. And in fact, I think it's working. There is so much frustration that Neon Revolt wrote this article the other day. Your frustration is their torment. And he tries to rally the troops. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. We will not be demoralized. Yet, Robert, here's a comment somebody left for me under my video I posted last night, my interview with Bill Holter. And I think it sums up exactly what Neon Revolt said. And it comes from NPC Junk Ogre, and it reads like this. And I saw many of these comments last night. He says, a lot of us are growing impatient waiting. We've heard the old justice is coming for almost 2 years. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If dozens of people aren't sentenced to serious crimes and imprisoned for life and or executed, Trump's first term will have been an immense failure. Why don't I get your thoughts on that before I play that Enemies clip from Showtime?
Well, first off, Trump's first term has been a magnificent, incredible success. The problem is the media hasn't reported on anything because it is top secret. Everything I'm reading and all of my sources in the government and outside of the government are saying that Trump has successfully defeated the deep state. He's taken back between $5 and $15 trillion. We are about to have a complete currency reset, a gold-backed dollar. The Federal Reserve has been virtually nationalized. He'll make that official in a year or so. And the economy is booming, and he's negotiating with everybody. He's gotten rid of all these bad trade tariffs. He's stopped illegal immigration, which is way down. There's a whole lot left to be done. But the bottom line here is the only reason people don't see that Trump is a success is because they're too stupid to read alternative sources.
You just dropped a bombshell there. Let's back up. I talked about the Fed with Bill Holter, and I suggested that this president needs to return the power of the printing press to the Treasury. Your thoughts there on the Fed? You think he's going to nationalize or disband the Fed?
I believe that Donald Trump is vastly more powerful and more wise and more cunning than people have any idea. This is a man that did well on the streets of New York. He got along with the mob. He got along with politicians. He got along with judges. I don't think people have a clue. I've written a number of pieces on how Trump, Xi, and Putin all agreed as soon as he was elected that, number one, they wouldn't allow themselves to be fooled into a World War III by the deep state using NATO. And number two, they were going to reboot the global economy, and they were going to castrate the Rothschilds, the Vatican, and the Zionists. They've done 2 of the 3. The Zionists are last.
Those are the names of the enemies of the people. I've been saying it for a very long time, as have you. All right, let's talk about this psychological operation to demoralize the patriots. I'm going to read just this paragraph from Neon Revolt, and then I'm going to play you that intro to that incredibly despicable enemy show on Showtime. Neon Revolt wrote this: I think it's safe to say almost all Q patriots have been experiencing a lot of frustration over the past week or so in the wake of the midterms and 11/11. It's beyond frustration, actually. It's moved into the territory of despair as we watch those who hate us, who wish nothing but death and destruction upon our heads, seemingly succeeding across multiple domains simultaneously. Elections are being stolen, California is burning, and where is Q in all of this? We'll get back to that in a second, folks. Let me play this for you. It's stunning. This is from Showtime. It's called Enemies, the President, Justice, and the FBI, and this is their title intro sequence.
This Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story.
It is the FBI that is sworn to uphold the rule of law and protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies when the president breaks his own oath.
That is something that happens in a dictatorship. That is not something that happens in a democracy.
The Russia case against the Trump White House began with a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters.
We have seen this before.
5 men were arrested early Saturday while trying to install eavesdropping equipment at the Democratic National Committee.
You know, I'll pause it there.
It's absolute and utter crap. First off, the president has not broken any oaths. The president is, in fact, a star when it comes to standing up for the Constitution. Now, he has had several failures. He has not implemented election reform. He has not connected with the 99%. He has not done what he needs to do in order to get a Congress that has libertarians and Greens and Constitution Party and Reform Party and independents in it. And that's the only way you're going to break the back of the two-party tyranny that is still trying to screw the president, okay? Number two, I believe that Comey is a criminal. Comey and Hillary Clinton were stealing patents. This is how they made their living. Comey may well be a pedophile. I'm told he likes to dress up as Howdy Doody. I don't know if that's true or not. But the fact is that Mueller, to take another example, is an absolute traitor. As director of the FBI, the only thing Robert Mueller was responsible for was protecting Dick Cheney, who made 9/11 happen. Dick Cheney and George H.W. Bush are the two biggest criminals in the United States of America. They enabled the Zionists to plan and bring down the Twin Towers beginning in 1989 when the Twin Towers were condemned. And I put all of that into 28 memos to the president that your listeners can find at tinyurl.com/911-POTUS. CNN is crap news network. Fox News is faux news, F-A-U-X, for fake news. Outside of Tucker and a couple of others, it is crap. Fox does not have the balls to call the California fires for what they are. Fox does not have the balls to call the synagogue false flag for what it is. Fox does not have the balls to call birthright citizenship exactly the way the president has said. It was never intended to apply to people born of either tourists or illegal aliens. These are people over whom we have no legal jurisdiction. This is clear as a bell. And hats off to that lady at Fox. I forget her name, Linda something. She's nailed it, and I've published on this. The Chinese have 2 million birthright U.S. citizens they're planning to filter back into the U.S., maybe in 2024, maybe in 2028. And the Chinese are planning to throw the U.S. election with Chinese birthright citizens. President Trump is absolutely right, and we have to retroactively cancel those citizenships.
All right, I want to circle back to that clip just for a second. I want your thoughts on this. I'm a little shocked at how widespread the fascism is, right? We know about the Mockingbird mainstream media, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, right? We know about the pillars of their Mockingbird messaging. But it shocks me. Yeah, but it shocks me to see how widespread it is, because that Showtime clip there that I just played for you folks conflates Watergate, tries to somehow infer that this president. Yeah, let's talk. Right, let's talk about Watergate.
Let me make another point. Watergate. I've just come back from an excellent meeting with Jimmy Boots Rothstein, a retired New York Police Department detective, who was literally part of the deal. He arrested Sturgis. Watergate was about putting down the pedophiles. People don't understand that Richard Nixon was actually a law enforcement, law and order president. One of the things he did that people don't know about is he put an end to snuff movies. Snuff movies were happening all over the United States. It was becoming a plague. Nixon commissioned a special group. They were given these special credit cards with no limit, and he said, do whatever it takes. Boom. Snuff movies made in the USA disappeared. I'm very pleased with that. Now, Nixon, the whole Watergate thing was about getting the Democratic pedophile book. And I will tell you, if that book were to be captured today, I'm pretty sure Joe Biden's name would be in it. The pedophiles at the upper levels of both the Democratic and the Republican Party are the president's prime target. And he and Jeffrey Sessions, I believe, have them all locked in. I think that this clip that you've played is a really excellent example of what happens when the people drop out and don't take part in governing themselves. And one of the reasons that Cynthia McKinney and I are so focused on getting Donald Trump to pass election reform is because 70% of the public is disenfranchised. The Democrats control 17% of the vote, the Republicans control 13% of the vote, and everybody else is shut out. Their vote doesn't count, and they have no access to a congressional seat. So Trump has been a huge success behind the scenes on the banking scene and the economic scene. He has been a failure on the political and social scene. He has failed to throw the press out of the White House. This is something he should do now that Acosta's press pass has been restored. Nowhere does it say that we have to provide office space to the scum press. They should be thrown out of the White House. They should also be thrown out of the Pentagon. We should not be providing office space at taxpayer expense to the press. They should have to come to press conferences at the National Press Club, and the president can participate by video or in person as he chooses. But these pieces of crap like Acosta do not get to be assholes in the people's house.
Yeah, that's right. And I want to back you up on a couple of things here. First of all, the president is right when he takes his case to the American people and he calls the mainstream mockingbird media the enemies of the people, because they are. No better example than that Showtime clip. That's an entertainment network, but that is a documentary style piece of propaganda that is meant to demoralize and misrepresent the truth. I've often said these people specialize in bearing false witness. That
part of the problem you have to bear in mind when I talk about hashtag Google Gestapo, I coined that term. Cynthia McKinney and I were attacked by the Zionists 6 ways in 90 days. And that story, which includes Meetup, it's Amazon, Facebook, Google, Meetup, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, and now PayPal. These are hashtag Google Gestapo, and they are censoring people. This whole synagogue false flag was designed to take out Gab. The patsy that the Anti-Defamation League mounted posted vile, vile things, not only on Gab, but on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But only Gab was taken out because Gab was the Anti-Defamation League's target, okay? What you need to understand is that the reason that stuff like this and the reason the Crap News Network has a modest success with people of limited intelligence is because all of the channels that would tell the truth have been sequentially shut down, including InfoWars, Natural News, and so forth. The president has had, I think, 3 big failures, and I'm going to mention them because I'm fair and balanced. Number 1, he hasn't done election reform in order to broaden his base to include the Tea Party patriots, the independents, the Constitution Party, and the libertarians particularly. Number 2, the president has failed to sponsor a truth channel. He has failed to do a racketeering investigation against hashtag Google Gestapo. All of those people should be under criminal indictments, all right? And number 3, the president often does not know what he does not know. Let me take as a very specific example his embarrassing himself over this last thing with McRaven and bin Laden. The bin Laden that was killed in Pakistan, I know with absolute certainty, was a false bin Laden, a patsy provided by the Pakistani military.
Had to be.
To Leon Panetta and Barack Obama as a gift for re-election theater. SEALs died. This is McRaven's shame. McRaven did not have the intelligence to challenge the fact that was already known to Steve Piasnik and myself and several others and Paul Craig Roberts. Bin Laden died in 2001. His obituary appeared in the Egyptian papers. McRaven didn't have the balls to say, hey, wait a minute. Bin Laden died in 2001. What are you doing here?
Yeah, you don't want to back you up.
Hit him on being stupid about that.
Yeah, we'll back you up, too, because we know Bin Laden was a CIA asset who was being handled, and he was very, very ill. I believe he had liver failure or kidney failure or whatever. He was in the hospital, kidney failure. Yeah, the whole narrative is preposterous, but of course, after they captured Bin Laden, nobody got to see the body, and they chucked it over an aircraft carrier into the sea.
Well, look, I have a long post that has 99 specific anomalies having to do with that, to include the fact that you don't do DNA tests in the field. You just can't do it. No, that was a fake Bin Laden. There were another 6 Bin Ladens. There were 7 Bin Ladens. There were a total of 8 fake Bin Ladens. Some of them so obvious that they could only do audio. They couldn't do video because they'd be laughed out of the room. What our president needs is an intelligence community he can trust and a justice community he can trust, and he does not have that. You cannot trust the Department of Justice. You cannot trust the FBI. You cannot trust the CIA. You cannot trust the NSA. And let's move forward to this whole Khashoggi thing. The Zionists are expert at faking telephone calls. The audio that the president is being told condemns the Prince of Saudi Arabia is very likely manufactured by the Zionists, because the Zionists and the CIA both want Bandar and Turkey to run Saudi Arabia. And I believe Khashoggi was killed as part of a coup against the reformist prince. And CIA, in my view, is complicit with Bandar and Turkey in trying to overthrow the Saudi Arabian regime. And there's nobody telling the president this.
All right, I want to circle back to something you said, too, about snuff films. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it is one of the tools that the CIA has used for years and years, child sex trafficking, and, of course, this whole thing of satanic ritual abuse. Paul Bonacci, who is a victim of child sex trafficking and satanic ritual abuse, testified in an interview with John DeCamp that when he was a teenager in the late 1980s, he was forced to participate in raping and murdering for a snuff film, which he claimed was directed by a man named Hunter Thompson. Now, guys, if you think that Robert David Steele is off his rocker saying that snuff films were becoming an epidemic back in the 70s and 80s, listen to this clip from Hunter S. Thompson on Late Night with David Letterman, in which he basically admits to hunting humans.
Bonacci also named the director of the snuff film, whom they picked up in Las Vegas, saying his name was Hunter Thompson. Now, self-proclaimed gonzo journalist Hunter S. Thompson is certainly a nutcase. And of course, he's lauded by the Western media as being some sort of journalistic genius. But before I show you the clip of Hunter S. Thompson saying something very, very sick and peculiar in his own words, I want you to know that a man named Russell Bridges, who was a Republican Party photographer and also a photographer for Lawrence King, claims that Hunter S. Thompson offered him $100,000 to shoot a snuff film for him in the 1980s, which Bridges declined. And Hunter S. Thompson's own secretary wrote on his memoir blog that he once tried to make her watch a snuff film, which she refused to do. And according to his Wikipedia page, Hunter S. Thompson lived in San Francisco, California, in the same vicinity as Bohemian Grove at the time that all of this allegedly took place. And he was researching twisted pornography like bestiality at that time too. In Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Hunter S. Thompson wrote about procuring adrenochrome, a gland from a human's brain, from Satanists in order to get extremely high. This is incredible because this is an actual hidden phenomenon. A human's circulatory system and glands secrete mass amounts of adrenaline before they die, especially if they're tortured first. Anyone looking into this subject is well aware that Satanists, or at least those claiming to be Satanists, have been known to do this ritualistic murder and blood drinking. And it's quite a coincidence Hunter S. Thompson would have known about that fact in the late 70s and even wrote about it. Now, if you think Hunter S. Thompson wasn't involved in this stuff up to his eyeballs, this is Hunter S. Thompson's appearance on the David Letterman Show in November of 1988. Listen very carefully as Hunter S. Thompson admits that he loves to hunt and kill people.
Next guest has been called the most accurate and least factual reporter working today. His latest book right here is entitled Generation of Swine, Tales of Shame and Degradation in the 80s. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Hunter Thompson. Hi, Hunter. Nice to see you. How you doing? Come on over. And what is your life like there? Is it Colorado, you said?
Peaceful.
You're up in the mountains?
8,000 feet.
Yeah. And what kind of a day do you have? So pick any day, for example. Do you get up early and write and stuff, or what?
Yeah, I write early in the morning. I work all day long.
Yeah.
And then I cut the grass, and I chop wood.
Mm-hmm.
And
what do you do for recreation there?
Yeah, that's what I do for recreation. Yeah. I work.
Do you ever hike up into the mountains?
Oh yeah, I do that I like to kill.
And when you say kill, you're talking about what? Neighbors? What?
We don't want to talk about shooting people, do we?
No, but you're teasing when you say you like to kill, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not teasing. I used to like to kill. When I realized that I was hunting in order to kill.
You like hunting?
I quit. Well, I did. I quit.
Yeah. But I know that when you
But I quit because I realized I was not hunting for meat. I was hunting because I like to kill.
Yeah. Have you talked to anyone about this stuff?
Robert, I just wanted to play that to back you up on these snuff films.
All right, let me make a point here on the record for your tape, for your listeners. I am a commissioner and the chief counsel for the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Human Trafficking and Child Sex Abuse. We are not a law enforcement agency. We are an educational, nonprofit Judicial Commission of Inquiry. We are being flooded with testimony, to include testimony from Indiana. I don't think Mike Pence is going to be viable as a vice presidential candidate or as a presidential candidate going forward. All of this stuff is very, very real. Now, on CIA, let me make a point, because a lot of people don't understand that there are actually 7 CIAs. There isn't one big monolithic CIA. There's the bureaucracy CIA, there's the drone CIA, there's the torture and rendition CIA, there's the Zionist CIA, and there are a couple of others. There's the Wall Street CIA, and then there's the White House CIA, which is kind of closed down right now because CIA is absolutely worthless. Let me give you a very specific example. If I were director of CIA, the caravan would be gone within 2 weeks. And I would do it by working with the chiefs, the intelligence chiefs of all of those countries. I'd rack up 1,000 buses, and I would tell all of these people in the caravan the traditional Latin American saying, which is very well understood: el oro o el plomo, the gold or the lead. Now, everybody, get on the bus. You get $1,000 when you reach your home country. It's over.
Question for you. Before we move on to these California fires, I believe the Californians are being targeted in service of UN Agenda 21 and other nefarious agendas. I want to ask you about 11/11 and the parade. Q was talking about 11/11, and my friend Liz Crokin, who's very much has dedicated her life to exposing child sex trafficking and satanic ritual abuse. Here's the thing. Liz has taken a lot of heat because she came on my show a few months back and predicted by November 11th we'd see some high level of arrests. I think she may have even taken the gamble that Hillary would be among those arrested. Your thoughts on when are these criminals, if ever, going to be arrested? Are we going to see any indictments of these high-level criminals? That's an important question, and one of the reasons I'm upset with Trump for not connecting with the 99% and not doing national ballots and things like that is that he has basically lost a chance to gain power from the public. Let me spell this out for you in several ways. Number one, Guantanamo is now fully reconstructed. It's a Marriott courtyard for elite prisoners, and it's got a complete battalion of National Guard there ready and waiting. Although I disagree with Guantanamo, I would have preferred Fort Leavenworth or one of the FEMA concentration camps with reinforced security. That's there. Number two, there have been a lot of things that have slipped. For example, the economic reset was supposed to happen in July. And then it slipped to August, and then October, and then November, and now people are saying 1 December is the hard date. I don't have direct knowledge, but I do have some sources, and I'm quite convinced that President Trump is focusing on what really matters, which is the economic reboot, okay? China, Russia, the US, and then other countries are all going to gold-backed currencies, and I believe they will all nationalize their central banks. The Rothschilds have already surrendered. They tried to keep 5%, and they were told to take a hike. The Rothschilds have just put up their trust business for sale. Okay, they're liquidating. Third, and most important,
it's my view that it is not politically viable to arrest Hillary Clinton unless you first arrest Dick Cheney. Arresting Dick Cheney for 9/11, which was an absolute atrocity against Americans, is the precursor to arresting Bill and Hillary. The other thing that I don't think the president has a grip on is the CIA. The CIA made Bill and Hillary Clinton. They turned Arkansas into an aircraft carrier for guns, drugs, gold, cash, and small children. And I am against the decision that was made to allow George H.W. Bush to die without being indicted. George H.W. Bush is the master criminal in our era, and they're going to let him die peacefully. Barbara Bush is also equally culpable. Dick Cheney is the one guy I think we can hang, and I do believe some people should hang. Although I'm a Truth and Reconciliation guy, I do agree there are, let's say, 100 to 1,000 that should hang. That's something I don't know where the president's at, but I believe that all of these people are under control. They're wearing ankle bracelets. And the other thing is, it may be that a decision will be made, and I personally would favor this, to give what I call the McCain option to people like Hillary Clinton. It may be that the country needs to be spared. On the one hand, the country needs to be educated on the evil that these people did, to include the trafficking in children that the Clinton Foundation and the Clintons specifically appear to be heavily engaged in. But on the other hand, I'm not sure there's a lot of merit to having a bunch of show trials. So you can achieve education and you can achieve justice in different ways. In the Army, they call it Ranger justice. So I think, let me say this. I think that Trump has fallen back on his schedule. I think he's 6 months behind. I hope and I pray that he catches up. But I will also tell you this, there are increasing rumors that he will not run in 2020. And there are a lot of Republican donors scrambling around for Plan B, which certainly is not Mike Pence. I will say this. Donald Trump, God bless him, has opened the door. I would like to see him run again, and I will support him if he runs again, unless he does something really stupid like ask Nikki Haley to be his vice president. If Donald Trump does not run again, a coalition team will, I believe, win the next election, and it will finish the job.
Well, I certainly hope he runs again, because right now the Democrats don't have one single viable candidate. And creepy porn
they
lawyers.
Do, actually, they have this guy in this fake Latino in Texas who likes to use the name Beto. He's actually called Robert, as I am. I'm Latino on my mother's side. She's Colombian.
But he just lost his election.
Let me finish. This guy in Texas is a fake, just like Barack Obama was a fake.
All right. Well, that doesn't surprise me a bit. And I really don't think they have a candidate. What, are they going to try to prop up Hillary again? Hey, getting back to the idea of educating, though, I like that because as it pertains to the Clintons, we don't necessarily have to see them executed, but I would like to see them go to prison for their crimes. And this acting Attorney General Whitaker has been very vocal about his distaste for the Clinton Foundation. And more than distaste, I think he's alluded to the fact that it is a criminal operation, which it is.
Well, I certainly agree with that, but let me again point out to you, we've got a real problem with the FBI, and we've got a real problem with the Department of Justice. So many criminals have burrowed in. What happens is the political appointees shift over into Schedule C appointments, and they burrow in. That's the term that's used. They burrow in. If I were advising the president, I would literally be firing half of the FBI and half of the Department of Justice, and I would be recalling a quarter of those who have retired who are known to be trustworthy, and I would be hiring new people on an accelerated rate. And part of the problem that we have is the clearance process. The security clearance process in the United States of America is so totally broken that it's actually part of the problem. But I don't think the president is able to execute his grand vision because he doesn't have an FBI and a Department of Justice that can live up to the requirement. So this is a real problem. I also would like to say I wrote the letter to Comey indicting Hillary Clinton for treason, pedophilia, charity fraud, and electoral fraud. She stole 13 elections from Bernie Sanders. Everybody knew it, including Bernie Sanders, and he went along with that. And by the grace of God, we were able to prevent her stealing the same 13 states from Donald Trump. So let me really emphasize that the president has succeeded beyond all expectations for anyone with a brain, because he's the first president since John F. Kennedy who has not had the full support of the deep state. All prior presidents, including Ronald Reagan, had the full support of the deep state, and Jimmy Carter, and they were basically placeholders. Donald Trump has achieved what he's achieved in the face of opposition people cannot conceive of. He has not made the leap to being the greatest president ever because he has refused to listen. For example, he would have held the House. I posted with Cynthia McKinney, I posted 10 things that Trump could have done to hold the House. They included pardoning all of the Black Panthers who are political prisoners, appointing Carol Moseley Braun to the UN seat. That would hit 3 demographics, women, blacks, and Democrats. He should have pardoned the American native Leonard Peltier. He should have promised to push through the Election Reform Act in 2018 to give libertarians and Greens and independents a fair shake in 2020. There were several other things in there. Had he done those things, he would have held the House. He made the mistake of making the election about him rather than about we the people.
Hey, I'm looking at my notes here, and there's something I have to ask you about before we get to the fires. Guys, stay with us. We're going to talk about these fires because they have my blood boiling. There's more than 1,000 people missing in California now. You know what that means, folks? They're not coming back. All right, I want to ask you about FISA D-class. That's what this president needs to do to get this thing back on track and to reveal the actual enemies of the Constitution that are aligned against our president. FISA D-class, are we going to see it? When are we going to see it?
I don't know. I personally think the president made a mistake in not declassifying FISA. He has the authority. I'm really concerned because there are too many people that are pushing back. He's hearing from people at the CIA that are saying, don't declassify all of the Kennedy files. Don't do this, don't do that. He's not hearing from people who actually know what they're talking about with respect to fake bin Ladens or the synagogue false flag. I mean, the memorandums that we delivered 2 volumes of memorandums to the president, one on 9/11, one on Sandy Hook. The one on 9/11, Amazon published. The one on Sandy Hook, Amazon blocked. Amazon is banning authors, books, and reviews and reviewers because they are part of hashtag Google Gestapo. So from where I sit, the president has done a magnificent job to the extent of his individual capabilities, and he has failed to take the hand of the public outside of his base. And that's holding him back.
All right. Well, you know, as we outlined in the beginning of this conversation, he is under attack by all sides in every aspect of the mainstream Mockingbird media, including HBO and Showtime and Comedy Central, and you pick it. You pick the cable show, you pick the nightly show.
Yeah, but don't forget,
they're all attacking him.
Facebook and YouTube and Google, they are all censoring, manipulating, and digitally assassinating. Every single one of those people is in violation not only of the First Amendment, but of Title VII anti-discrimination. Why we don't have a racketeering investigation and why we don't have criminal indictments against the heads of Amazon, Facebook, Google, Meetup, Twitter, YouTube, PayPal, and Reddit, I do not understand.
Yeah, I agree. All right, now let me ask you this. Just give me a second to stitch this together. Agenda 21 in California. If you guys aren't familiar with it, just research it. These California fires are absolutely mind-bogglingly evil. And I think it's really fascinating that they're calling the most destructive fire in California's history a campfire that caused paradise to burn. Just think of the play with language here, folks. And then you discover that PG&E, the same PG&E that has been now named by firefighters in California as being at least partially responsible for those devastating Tubbs fires in October of 2017, this same PG&E, when you go to their website and you click on Our Team, the picture that pops up is Roger H. Kimmel, vice chairman of Rothschild, Inc. And then you look at the pictures of these fires, Robert, and you tell me how it can be called a forest fire when the trees are left standing and entire neighborhoods are burned to the ground. There's something very strange going on in California.
Well, it's not just, it's not neighborhoods. It's only the buildings and only the cars. And asphalt melts in the face of heat. This is directed energy without question. This is microwave arson, and Catherine Austin Fitts and many others have focused on this. We have a post at Phi Beta Iota that lays all of this out. I cannot understand how the President of the United States can go to these fires and play along with the narrative. I am very frustrated. He promised that he would get to the bottom of 9/11 and tell us all who did it, and he already knows who did it. He gave up that chance on 9/11. I was told that he thought it was one election cycle too soon. On the synagogue, an obvious false flag. The synagogue was back in business 3 days later, meaning there were no biohazards that had to be cleaned up. I mean, I'm having trouble understanding who is giving the president intelligence so that he can be effective. General Tony Zinni is on record as saying that the CIA, the NSA, all of them together provide at best 4% of what the president or a major commander needs. 4%. The president, other than calling a few friends, has no one that is there to give him the 96% that he's missing. He has no one there to challenge the official narratives. I have published, and your people can find it at tinyurl.com/Trump Triumph. I have published a plan for throwing the press out of the White House, putting an open source intelligence agency, a truth channel, and a Trump studio and a grand strategy cell in there. And I would abolish the National Security Council because I absolutely guarantee you Donald Trump's three greatest enemies in the United States of America are named John Bolton, Chuck Schumer, and Mike Pence.
I want to read a comment from Magical Girl under one of my videos. But before I do this, guys, I want you to keep in mind that it wasn't Trump that gave PG&E blanket amnesty against these fires. It was criminal governor Jerry Brown, who I believe now has signed the bill allowing utilities like PG&E to bill the very customers they victimized with these fires for the lawsuits that will be coming from these fires.
That should be illegal. I mean, I've just finished reading a book by Taleb called Skin in the Game. What Brown has just done is provided amnesty for criminal misbehavior by a corporation.
Yeah, a Rothschild-controlled corporation. All right, so Magical Girl really sums up frustration. She hits on a number of things here. Feel free to comment on any of them. She says, how does Trump allow a corrupt vote to happen in multiple states with no redo? How does Trump allow California to set fire to itself and then disqualify PG&E of any monetary wrongdoing? That was actually Jerry Brown who did that. How does Trump reward a sanctuary illegal city to get more monetary help? How does a president walk around a fire zone and not question what he sees? How does Trump allow a lowly governor to sell American land to China? How does Trump allow a state rep to threaten our constitutional rights with nuke enforcement and not rebuke him? Compare him to Hillary and we're seeing the same crap, different talking head. I don't believe that. I think he's far, far and away better than that criminal Hillary Clinton, who would have been the final nail in our nation's coffin.
I've got three thoughts. Thought number one is Trump is vastly smarter and more aware than people give him credit for. I mean, I'm privileged to know people like Judge Napolitano and Roger Stone and three others that I cannot name, all of whom talk to the president from time to time. I think the president is at the top of his game as an individual. That's number one. Number two, he's surrounded by shits. He is surrounded by people that absolutely are not providing him with 100% support. And I personally think that his communications team stinks. His national security team stinks. His economic team, I think, is probably pretty good. And I'm pleased with that. But bottom line here is Donald Trump is trying to pull the boulder up the mountain all by himself. He does not have a communication staff worthy of the name. He does not have the bully pulpit. I would have him doing fireside chats every night, 7 minutes, talking to the public. I would have a two-way Trump channel where 200 million people can sign up to get email and Twitter or Trump. We call them trumpets, not Twitters. I would bury Twitter with a Trump channel. He's not doing any of this. And all of this is stuff that can be done in 30 days. And so I feel very frustrated because I have been told that every time one of my ideas gets to the president, he's told, oh, no, you don't want to talk to that crazy person. And oh, by the way, he's associated with Cynthia McKinney, who's a communist and an Islamic terrorist lover. Okay? People are lying to the president of the United States in order to keep him from reaching those of us who actually have his best interests in mind. So bottom line here is I hope Trump runs again. If he doesn't run, I know some people who will run, and this is going to be the trick, and I'll announce it now. Every single one of us will run for a different party, including the independents, and we will campaign together. We will fly across the country together. We will bus across the country together. We will fill auditoriums 3 times bigger than anything Trump can manage.
All right. As we part ways, I want to circle back to the Fed, the question of the Fed. When I talked to Bill Holter about getting rid of the Fed, he expressed his concern about then what happens to all those outstanding dollars and $22 trillion in debt. What are your thoughts on disbanding the Fed? Do we do sort of a LaRouche idea of returning to a Hamiltonian credit system? What is the vision for, or does he just issue greenbacks like JFK tried to do?
Well, it's not that simple. The first step is to nationalize the Fed. The second step is to eliminate the federal income tax and replace it with the automated payment transaction tax, which is collected in a bottom-up fashion. The third step is to reverse the 17th Amendment, which was never properly ratified. The senators are supposed to represent the states, and the states are supposed to approve a balanced budget. Okay, so the whole United States government has been twisted out of shape beyond recognition as our founders intended. The fourth thing, I think Trump has already agreed with Russia and China on the status of all of the loans and debts and things like that. But I do believe there will be a debt jubilee. At some point, student debt and elderly medical debt is going to go away. It's $3 trillion in all, including small business and family debt. I don't think that you can do one thing and have that solve it. This is much more. This is why I was recommended for the Nobel Peace Prize, because I put together holistic analytics, true cost economics, and open source everything engineering. The president does not have a grand strategy. The pieces of crap that are published by the US government with strategy in them are absolutely worthless theatrical comic book presentations. The president doesn't have a grand strategy. He doesn't have someone who is helping him think through, for example, the logic of bringing back all of our troops and their wallets to the United States, closing every single military base overseas. And he doesn't have anyone showing him the logic of applying open source everything engineering to restore the aquifers and to absolutely guarantee every American clean water, which a third of Americans don't have, clean water, food without pesticides and toxins, and clean air. Okay? So this country's out of control. Trump needs a better staff. Let me end on that. Trump, God bless him, is doing the best he can all alone. Everybody around him sucks.
All right. Well, we know something needs to be done about this Fed because, as Bill reminded us, the national debt payments just passed $500 billion a year and will soon eclipse the national defense spending just to service the interest on this incredible debt. And that, of course,
that's a detail. Let me say a couple of things. Number one, we could cut the federal budget in half tomorrow by doing several things, to include taking lifestyle diseases off of Medicare. Okay, if you want to be fat and have diabetes, that's your problem. It's not our problem. And that is something that I would phase in over 10 years, because the reality is, and I'm overweight by 70 pounds. The reality is the American food system is structured to create fat, stupid people. The American pharmaceutical system is structured to create an expensive medication for every problem you get from eating crap food, okay? Or drinking bad water, or taking vaccines. I mean, vaccines are causing autism. It's just been proven in a federal court that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, which I consider a criminal network, like the FDA, they have never in history tested a vaccine. That is now a matter of federal judicial record. So let me just say that Trump has done tremendously in his first 2 years. In his second 2 years, he needs to flush everybody, including the National Security Council and the press, out of the White House and start over with 3 big words in his head: authentic, inclusive, and truthful. There's nobody in the White House that can do that today for him.
All right. Robert David Steele, we really very much appreciate your time. Do us a favor and shout out all your websites, YouTube. Tell us how people can find you.
Let me just end by saying thank you. You are absolutely one of my favorite channels. And if this gets banned on YouTube, I know you'll have it up on BitChute. Anyone can look up Robert David Steele, and they'll immediately see my website at the top, and they'll also see my other websites. PhiBetaIota.net is free, and I would love to have some holiday donations because we have been under attack. People trying to basically drown us out with denial of service attacks and things like that. So I've created a mirror site. So if I could get some end of year donations, it's paypal.me/EarthIntel. And we are working on an alternative to PayPal because we have found that PayPal cannot be relied on to stay with you if you are an alternative voice.
All right. Very good. And our guest has been Robert David Steele. Thanks so much for your time.
Oh, God bless you. God bless Donald Trump, and God bless America.
God bless us all. God bless America. All right. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. God bless all of you. And if this conversation resonated with you, it's filled with very important information. Please spread it within your sphere of influence on social media while we still can. And thanks so much for your support. For Real News 24/7, visit us at sgtreport.com. God bless, guys. Bye-bye.
That's what it's going to be all about, Sean, is there's going to be a mad rush to get out from under and or away from any liabilities. And gold and silver should be looked at as your savings account. They should be looked at as your bank account.